Hey everybody, this is John Mark. Welcome to Mark My Words, and welcome to part one of a two-part series called Why the Left Never Learns. The goal of this two-part series is to explain to you why our primary strategy as right-wingers in America cannot be to teach the left. Because it doesn't work. A few people learn, but most people don't learn. Why don't most people learn? Because there are very deep-rooted, powerful psychological reasons why the demographics that vote great majority left do that. And when I explain these reasons to you, you are going to understand that we are not going to be able to turn masses of these people to right-wing thinking because it goes against their instincts and it goes against very powerful psychological forces, some of which have been built up over thousands of years. So you need to understand we can win and we will win, but it's just not going to be by teaching the left. And I'm not saying we shouldn't get our message out there because it does help. Some people do learn. But we are not turning the tide simply by talking to the left. The midterms were a great opportunity for us right-wingers to understand. All of our talking, all of the pundits we have out there, all of the great right-wing speakers and teachers that we have, I'm not saying they're accomplishing nothing, but they are not moving the dial. All of the demographic groups that vote left continued to vote left in the midterms at basically the same percentages as they always do. That has not changed. I predicted that it would not change. As soon as the polls came out that said Trump has 40% approval among black people, I called BS immediately. And sure enough, if you look at the midterms, blacks voted in the same percentages that they always do for Democrats. So we need to get our head out of the sand. We need to stop relying on strategies that do not work. And so my goal in this two-part series is to explain to you why that strategy does not work on a mass scale and why all of our talking to the left does not move the dial. In part one, I'm going to talk about two big customer groups of the left: people of color, non-white people. Non-white people are what gives leftism its power in the United States of America today. Most white people vote right-wing. Most non-white people vote left-wing. And of course, not all non-white people vote left. So what I'm going to say in part one here does not apply to all non-white people, of course, but it does apply to most of them. And there is a reason, there are reasons why most of them cannot extricate themselves from leftist thinking and why that's not going to change anytime soon. I'm also going to talk about LGBT people briefly in this part one. In part two, we're going to talk about the minority of white people. About a third of white people lean left and vote left. And I'm going to explain to you why they do that and why even with them, it's very, very difficult to break them out of that. And that can't be our primary strategy. In part two, I'm also going to talk about another group that wields huge influence in the United States of America, which is Jewish people. They're only 2% of the population, but they're almost 50% of the 1% of richest people in America. They're heavily influential in mainstream media, heavily influential in all media, really, Hollywood, heavily influential in finance. And they constantly push for multiculturalism, open borders, diversity, all these things that are not good for Western civilization. And I'm going to explain to you why they push for that. Why do 80% of Jews vote left and push for all these leftist things so hard? It's because of very deep-seated psychology that is built over a long period of history, and we're not going to break them out of it. So by the end of this two-part series, you're going to understand talking to the left is not the answer. Trying to teach them is not the answer. There is an answer, it's just not that. And of course, I'm going to be talking about what the answer is in future videos, so subscribe to my channel. So without further ado, let's dive into part one of why the left never learns. This is a bit of a compilation of recordings that I recorded at different times. Let's get right into it. Why the left never learns, part one. The core appeal of leftism to leftist customer groups is not logic and truth. The core appeal of leftism to leftist customer groups like people of color, LGBTQXYZ, ugly feminist women, etc. The core appeal of leftism to these customer groups is that leftism gives them something that we on the right wing can never and will never give them. It's not just free access to stuff and money and resources, although it is that. That's not the main appeal. That is part of the appeal, but it's not the main appeal. The main thing leftism gives them that we can never give them is leftism gives them status. It gives them status that they have not earned. Leftism gives them status that they otherwise would not have. LGBT people have historically, in Western civilization, been low status. There is a very good reason to keep those people low status in our society, to basically keep them in the closet. Like, I don't care what you do in your bedroom, but you are not going to come out in society and teach our children to be this way. You are not going to be a school teacher in a school. You are not going to have open displays of homosexuality where they can be seen in public, because it's not conducive to raising the next generation in a healthy manner and keeping our DNA and our literal lifeblood flowing through the generations. So, in a right-wing world, LGBT people are low status for very good reason. We have a very logical reason for having that system. Do they care about our logical reason? No. All they care about is that in our world, they're low status. Leftism gives them status that we can never give them. Do you understand what I am saying to you? Do you understand that they cannot be taught? They could listen to the reasoning I just gave and I could expound on it further. I could expound on it for 2 hours. Would they care? No. They're still going to want to have their open displays of homosexuality and men kissing and having young kids involved in this stuff too, out in the streets with whatever kind of garish crap costumes they wear. They're going to want to do that stuff. Why? Because that's their way of saying, you know what? In a leftist world, I'm high status. I'm celebrated. So you see that there's a critical mass of leftists, and I could do this for every leftist customer group. Because black people were historically mistreated in America, and because still to this day, they as a group are less successful, they feel this in their bones, and it grates on them. That is completely normal, folks. That is completely within the realm of normal behavior. And they know that because they're not as successful on average as a group in America, they also know very well, even though they deny this, that Africa is a hellhole, Haiti is a hellhole. Every single place on this planet where black people are the majority and where black people are running things is a hellhole. They know this. They feel this lack of achievement in their bones. So these people feel like their skin makes them low status, and that's why they lash out and lash out and lash out and lash out. Now, the other assumption the left makes is that if you gave a whole bunch of black people the level of power that white people have had, that the black people would be perfect little angels. Are you kidding me? Have you seen how the people in Africa are treated by their African leaders? But you understand, none of this logic enters the brain of a social justice warrior indoctrinated black person. Why? Because they have no incentive to have it enter their brain. Why? Because they feel status starved. So the left sells them fake status. They say to their customer groups, you are awesome just because you are LGBT or black or Muslim or a woman or whatever. You are awesome. You don't have to actually do anything admirable. You're just awesome because you're not a straight white male. And so the customer groups of leftism eat this up. It's like crack to them. We cannot get these people on our side or even to stop fighting us tooth and nail with reasoned arguments, because they're not interested in reasoned arguments. They're not interested in truth because the truth hurts them. It hurts their feelings. The truth makes them feel low status. So leftism builds an artificial world for them, an artificial pyramid of fake status for them, and they climb it and they feel better. And anytime we try to come to them with a reasoned, logical argument, all they feel is that we're trying to knock them down the status ladder. This is why we can go to them with logic all day long, and they will not care. Somebody came to Jay-Z, the black rapper guy, Somebody asked him recently, Jay-Z, shouldn't you support Trump or at least be glad for some of the things that Trump is doing because black unemployment is at an all-time low? More blacks are in the workforce. More blacks are working. Shouldn't you be happy? And what did Jay-Z say? Listen carefully to this, folks, because this reveals the whole thing. What was Jay-Z's reply? His reply was, it's not about money, it's about respect. Respect is another word for status. They feel lower status and it drives them nuts. And that's normal. That's to be expected. So you see, right out of Jay-Z's mouth, he and the blacks do not care if Donald Trump gives them jobs and jobs and jobs and jobs. They don't care. They care that Donald Trump called some Mexican immigrants rapists. And they blow that all out of proportion because of the psychology they're operating in. And they think that he's calling all Mexicans rapists, which is obviously not true, but their psychology just causes them to explode that into a big thing of Donald Trump is racist. And folks, if you're a white person, you have to understand you are going to be called racist by these people until they have as much power and as much wealth as white people, which is going to be when hell freezes over. Or else a very long time from now, after their low IQ people have had far fewer babies than their high IQ people for a long time. Like white people of Western European descent have been operating in for the last few thousand years. They've had that dynamic going, especially the last couple thousand. So this is not going to get better. And you see why. No matter what we do for them, no matter how many jobs Donald Trump creates for them, they do not care. They want status. The left gives them fake status because they cannot and have not earned their own. And if you think they're going to give that up and just embrace white people with open arms, you are living in a dream fantasy world. It is not going to happen. My fellow America First patriots and my fellow white people, we have to understand that racial tensions in America are not going to get better. They are not going to be fixed. There is only one way to fix this thing, and I'm going to give you a short introduction to it at the end of this video. But this is not going to get better because the psychology these people are operating in is too powerful. The psychology they are operating in is weaponized jealousy. Social justice warriorism, communism, what the left and the Democrat Party is doing with these non-white people is they are weaponizing jealousy. And that is why they are not proud of America. That is why they burn the American flag. Because all of these other non-white people are piggybacking onto the psychology of black people. Because the psychology that they're operating in is already basically present in seed form in most non-white people of the world. Because they look at America, they look at Western Europe, they look at white people, particularly of Western European descent, and they say, man, these people are just rich and successful. And they don't always understand why, but they just know that they are not as successful as a group as white people are. So they're operating in this basically insecurity or jealousy. So all these other non-white people, when they come to America, they piggyback on the psychology of black people. And of course, black people are not proud of America. Why would they be proud of America? All of American history is a big insult to them. This is why they kneel. They are saying, we blame you white people for the fact that we are not as successful as you. That is what these black men are saying when they kneel at an NFL game. They are saying, we blame white people. They are saying, we are angry at white people. And all these other non-whites are piggybacking off of that because the basic psychology is already present. The basic insecurity is already present. And they're piggybacking on this, and the Democrat Party is doubling down and doubling down and doubling down on this because they have nothing else. The Democrat Party has nothing else. These non-white people have nothing else. So you have to understand that we're not going to be able to convince them to give it up because they have nothing else. Their only other option is to actually compete on a level playing field and win. And they have not been able to do that. And there are reasons that they have not been able to do that. And those reasons are not being dealt with by anyone. So those reasons are not going away. And therefore, they will not compete on a level playing field. And therefore, they will double down on the only strategy they have left, which is blame and demonize Whitey. And the Democrat Party will double down on the only strategy they have, which is import people from the third world and teach them to demonize Whitey. The colonize and demonize strategy. That is all they have. So if you think this thing is going to get better, you're dreaming. It's not. There's only one way to fix it, which I'm going to share in a moment. See, white people think of American history as glorious with some mistakes and problems. Black people think of American history as a big message that says black people are inferior. Non-white people that are not black don't have any attachment to America's history at all. Why would they? It's not their history. No wonder they want to tear down statues. They don't care about our history. They don't care about us. Why would they want to retain or cherish or value or honor anything that our ancestors have done or anything that we do? All they care about is getting their status up on par with white people, which is in fact impossible in reality unless they perform at the level of white people, which they have not done, and which there's zero indication that they will do anytime soon. And that's a scientific statement, by the way. And I'm not saying it to be mean. I am trying to show you that this conflict can only be fixed one way. How much longer do we want to play trench warfare with the left? How many more times are we going to fight this battle with the left? I mean, what did leftism kill in the 20th century? 100 million people? And they're coming back with the exact same thing, with just different labels. Political correctness, social justice warriorism. This is communism, folks. It's communism. How many more times are we going to have to fight this battle? You know what my answer is? 0. 0 more times. This is going to be the last time. And if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. Remember these 3 words. I'm going to give you the 30,000-foot view here of what we need to do instead of trying to teach these people. Remember these 3 words. Separate, outlaw, punish. Separate, outlaw, punish. Notice that none of those 3 things has anything to do with convincing these hardcore leftists of anything. Notice that none of those 3 things is dependent in any way, shape, or form on their agreement or their being sane. And if your mind is kind of spinning like, okay, how do we actually do all this? That's what my future videos are going to be for. And let me tell you, the biggest challenge is not actually defeating them or separating from them. That's the easy part. I mean, I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but that's not really the main challenge. Once you understand the power analysis, the analysis of the power structure of the grassroots right, our team, and the swamp and the left, which is their team. Once you understand who actually has more power, getting a victory over them sometime in the relatively near future is not actually all that hard. The hard part is not separating from them. The real challenge is once we separate from them, how do we set up our government so that it is immune to leftism? The real challenge is making it so that our descendants never have to fight that battle again. We're going to be talking about that in future videos. I'm going to talk to you about some of the insights that Kurt Doolittle has about how to set up a government so that it is immune to leftism. So subscribe to my channel and let's do this, folks. Let's win. Let's get total patriot victory. Let's defeat the left permanently. how much longer do we want to play trench warfare with the left? How many more times are we going to have to fight this battle? You know what my answer is? 0. 0 more times. This is going to be the last time. And if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will.